Alright, hello and welcome to another Marvel Snap video. Today it's going to be a little bit of a different one. Uh, as of yesterday, Gladiator should have just came out. He is a 3/7 with the on-reveal text of add a card from your opponent's deck to their side of this location. If it has less power, destroy it. So it's a very interesting card. Popular opinion is that it's probably a bad to okay card, and I would agree with that sentiment. When it was initially released, it was a 3/8 card, which would have been interesting since it would have been the best stat line in its class. With it being a 3/7, it ties the same stat line as Maximus, which in my opinion has a better on reveal than this card. An option you obviously have with Gladiator is you can Cosmo it to not have the on reveal happen. But some of its gimmick is that you can have it go and kill an opponent's card, which is obviously a very powerful tool. The big downsides with this card, however, is that you pull the card from your opponent's deck. What happens is that card's on reveal ability will trigger, and if the card is an ongoing card, the ongoing effect will happen. So let's say it's a Devil Dino. It's not a 5/3, it's a 5 however many cards are in their hand, and then the Gladiator would try to attack it. So obviously it likely would not kill a Devil Dino or a Ronin. Um, with that being said, there's obviously some very good plus sides. Like you could pull a perfect tech card, like I don't know, you could pull Mobius or Morbius. Both of them would be very good cards that you could kill outright if you play this card on turn 3, negating very powerful effects. You could pull Sarah, things like that, that would really shut down your opponent's deck. The other side of the coin, and the more likely side that you will probably be seeing if you're playing this card a more up tempo, even later, you could pull Infinite. That's just going to sit there and you just gave him a free Infinite. Obviously, that's a niche case, but you could pull a High Evolutionary Hulk. That's pretty bad. You could pull a Mr. Negative. Hey, Gladiator would kill Mr. Negative, but not before Mr. Negative effects happen, so now they have a negative deck, which is exactly what they wanted, and you gave them another turn of Mr. Negative cards. Uh, Generally speaking, I think there are so many good on reveal cards that people are currently running that Gladiator isn't going to be hitting a lot of valuable cards very often. I think a lot of the time it's going to be Gladiator, why did you just do that? So I personally will not be picking up this card. I don't think it's going to be a very good card. With that being said, I did take some time, brew up a couple decks that I think might be fun with Gladiator. The first two are probably the decks that you will see Gladiator in the most, a similar shell to the one I showed. The third is my fun take on Gladiator that might not be the best deck, but it'll catch your opponents off guard and it'll probably be a lot of fun. Looking at the first deck, it is a Silver Surfer deck. Obviously, with him being a three cost, you have a really good card. Gladiator will likely bring a lot of good power to Silver Surfer decks. The big issue with Surfer is you can't really get tall in whatever lane you want. Gladiator helps fix that in tandem with Max. Now you have two 3/7s that you can play, and you have your Brood in another lane. So you can get really big. This is a pretty stock Silver Surfer deck. We have Crystal for consistency, Magic to give an extra turn, so that way when we have Sarah down, we can get as many cards in as we can. We have Killmonger Nova for just getting extra power across the board when Surfer can't. And then we have Storm Juggernaut, a classic combo. I don't really think there's a whole lot to say on Silver Surfer. Everyone kind of understands how Silver Surfer works, I think. Looking at the next deck, the next big one that everyone's looking at is junk decks, specifically junk decks that would also leverage something like Dr. Octopus. This is because Dr. Octopus is another extremely disruptive card, pulling cards from your opponent's hand. Pair that with Gladiator, we can now pull 5 cards from our opponent's hand, which is super cool. So like you can really throw off their tempo in like a destroy deck. You can Dr. Octopus and pull like their null and then have it get carnaged. But generally, this is just a stock kind of discard deck with Dr. Octopus. We have Ravonna with 2 goblins, Debris, Hood, Viper, Sentry. just a lot of good stuff. You could probably switch Dr. Octopus for something like Storm if you wanted, if you aren't feeling the Dr. Octopus. And then Gladiator would be good in here because either he pulls a card, kills it, or pulls a card and helps fill a slot on the board where your opponent can't play anymore. So, I mean, it's also junk. We have Carnage and Deathlock to destroy things on our side if we can't Viper it over to the opponent's side. Um, I mean, come next week, there would probably be an Annihilus in this deck somewhere, but we're looking at Gladiator today. Finally, looking at the third deck, it's a bit of a weird one. It's another Ravonna-esque deck. This deck is more leveraging the fact of killing your opponent's cards. So we have Forge and Shuri to buff our Gladiator, get him to a 14 stat line or a 9 stat line. At 9 or 14, he's a lot more likely to kill things. You obviously still have the issues of if it's an unrevealed card like Doctor Doom or something, it's still going to pop, spread his power, and then you'll kill the 1, which can be good. But what we're looking at here is we can play an up-tempo Nebula into a Ravonna. We can then lock down a lane with something like Negasonic, or we could set up a Shuri. From the Shuri, we then have the option to either Gladiator and get a 14 power body down, or we can Lady Deathstrike and have an 8 power Lady Deathstrike that will then likely wipe the whole lane that she's played in. From that Lady Deathstrike, it'll also kill our Shuri, so we could Zola that, or if we chose to Gladiator, we could then Taskmaster on turn 5, or Taskmaster on turn 6, or 5 if we have Ravonna down. And then that sets us up for a turn 6 Eliath, or just likely a turn 6 Eliath would be what the play would be there. And then as a bit of a contingency backup plan, we also have Luke Cage and Typhoid Mary for when things are going a little awry. We can Luke Cage on 2, and then we can Typhoid Mary into the Shuri, then Taskmaster the Typhoid to get 2 20 power cards into play. I think this will be not a shell you see a lot of people running, but I think it could be very fun and very powerful to just kind of blow up your opponent's side of the board. I don't think I mentioned Negasonic with there to just lock down a lane a bit, force them to kill a card. Obviously, not great into things like Destroy that could just like throw a Deadpool in there, throw Nova in there. But I mean, every other deck it would be a good matchup into. So, but I think that these 3 decks should showcase Gladiator well, show if he's good or not. Like I said, I won't be getting him, but if you guys do, please let me know in the comments. Let me know how good he ends up playing. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this different style of video, let me know by leaving a like and comment, and subscribe for more future deck highlights.